The story begins with a villa in Chile, where a middle-aged man is seen relaxing and enjoying the peace of life, given its strategic location to soothe the ears and eyes. It is revealed that his name is Michael Green, a hitman about to retire as he is no longer young. Shortly after, a seductive woman appears, catching Michael's eye and seducing him. While Michael is enjoying his beautiful retirement, a sniper is seen aiming at him. His name is Facundo. At the same time, two of his associates, named Hilda and Alexei, arrive with weapons aimed at Michael. Facundo then shoots Michael. It turns out that the woman is their undercover colleague named Cindy, assigned to kill Michael before his retirement. They are deployed by an organization called Damocles to eliminate Michael, as the organization is unwilling to pay its members' retirement pensions. The organization has a rule that agents aged 50 must retire and receive a pension according to their rank. The scene shifts to our main character, Duncan Wiesla, getting checked at a clinic. After the examination, it is revealed that Duncan has many injuries from his high-risk job as a hitman. Duncan has lost a spleen, a lung is punctured, and a meniscus is broken, where the meniscus is a crescent-shaped cartilage in the knee. His body injuries prove that he has survived many near-death experiences. A piece of metal is embedded in his body, which the doctor recommends removing. But Duncan refuses, perhaps as a keepsake, as he plans to retire from being a hitman. After his checkup, Duncan meets someone who manages all his wealth and assets. Duncan plans to retire in 14 days, exactly on his 50th birthday, when he will receive a pension of over $8 million. With that much money, Duncan can live peacefully in his old age if he successfully passes the retirement age set by the organization. The manager of the organization overseeing the hitmen, Vivian, meets him at a coffee shop and inquires about Michael's case, who is revealed to be the fourth victim in a month. This makes Duncan suspicious, as all the victims were about to retire. Vivian then gives him a brown envelope containing Duncan's last mission to kill a Mexican cartel member currently in Belarus. Vivian claims that the cartel is responsible for killing several of Duncan's colleagues, including Michael, and asks Duncan to eliminate the cartel member for a reward of $1 million, saying her boss wants revenge. However, Duncan refused because he no longer wanted to be involved. Vivian reported to her boss named Blut that he was rejecting the last mission. Blut, the head of the organization overseeing hitmen, was behind the assassinations of retiring hitmen because he didn't want to pay their pensions. If a hitman dies before reaching the age of 50, the pension fund goes to him and the organization. Duncan's pension was significantly larger compared to other agents. Duncan went to one of his houses in Montana, a place unknown to both the organization and those managing his wealth and assets. There, Duncan planned to clear his mind while waiting for his retirement, which was only a few days away. Day by day, Duncan stayed in Montana until one day. While shopping, he met his neighbor, Camille. Camille appeared somewhat distressed and often looked sad and alone, indicating she was suffering from severe depression and trauma from her past. Because they often met, they eventually got to know each other and grew closer. Duncan, who often listened to Camille's confessions, felt pity and cared for her like a father. This was evident when Duncan chopped wood for Camille and gave her a gift. He also taught Camille how to shoot to cheer her up a bit. However, Camille's trauma was so deep that she cried and trembled when she tried to shoot. Duncan, who had received a message from Vivian, contacted her. The payment for killing the Mexican cartel member had been increased to $2 million. Duncan would receive an advance payment and the rest after completing the mission. Unfortunately, Duncan refused and immediately hung up. Secretly, Duncan sought information about the cartel and devised his own plan. True enough, Duncan went to the hotel where the Mexican cartel member was staying, disguised as a cleaning service worker. He created a commotion to lure the cartel member out, and then executed him by nailing his hands and slaughtering his henchmen who arrived. Duncan found information and data about himself on the table and asked again who was behind all of this. Unfortunately, the cartel member died without speaking. After killing him, Duncan contacted Vivian and informed her to transfer the $1 million as he intended to carry out the mission. Vivian, unaware that Duncan had already killed the cartel member, eagerly transferred the money to Duncan's account, thinking he had fallen into her trap. Vivian then confronted Blut. She was furious and couldn't believe Blut had sent an amateur cartel member to kill someone known as the Black Kaiser. Vivian had warned Blut several times not to mess with Duncan and just pay his pension. However, Blut insisted, and now he would send his trusted subordinates called Pink Mambo, who were previously sent to kill Michael, to eliminate Duncan. Blut immediately ordered them to hunt Duncan by interrogating the person managing his assets and wealth about his whereabouts. Unfortunately, he didn't know Duncan's location, and they beat him mercilessly despite his old age. Eventually, they found data about Duncan's house locations in several counties and killed him to eliminate any witnesses who might report to Duncan. Quickly, they went to the addresses of Duncan's houses because they needed to eliminate him before his retirement. However, Duncan's houses were occupied by others who had no knowledge of Duncan's whereabouts. If they didn't know Duncan's location, Pink Mambo would surely kill them without hesitation. The members of Pink Mambo kept searching for information about Duncan and found repeated transactions to charitable organizations by Duncan. Recently, Duncan had made a transaction at a Montana bank. They headed to Montana and searched for Duncan near the bank. Coincidentally, they spotted Duncan leaving a supermarket. On his way home, Duncan saw a woman, not knowing it was Cindy, who was targeting him and pretending her car had a dead battery. With her attractive figure, Cindy asked Duncan for help to take her home. Without much thought, Duncan, captivated by Cindy's appearance, took her. Upon arrival, Cindy said someone would pick her up at 10 a.m. due to a snowstorm. Cindy began to seduce Duncan, and Duncan, who was momentarily weak, gave in to Cindy's advances. The other members of Pink Mambo heard their actions through a listening device. Facundo was aiming at them from a distance, and the other members were preparing to raid the place. However, Facundo's shot missed and hit Cindy, and Duncan quickly killed them. Realizing they were sent by someone, Duncan eliminated Facundo, and now he was the one hunting them. In the end, only one woman, Hilda, was left in the house, being hunted by Duncan. Duncan shot the lights one by one to limit Hilda's movement. However, Hilda was smart and lit a flare because she knew his weapon could read body heat. She hid behind a refrigerator, but her fatal mistake was exhaling, which was detected. Eventually, all members of Pink Mambo were killed, except Alexei, who managed to escape. Duncan searched for clues about who sent them to hunt him. He found a key to an apartment and immediately went there. He found someone and assuming it was her partner. The person mentioned that Duncan's neighbor, Camille, had been kidnapped. Upon hearing this, Duncan rushed to Camille's house. However, no one was there. The house was just a mess. Meanwhile, Blut, knowing that his top assassins, Pink Mambo, had been eliminated by Duncan, including his girlfriend Hilda, became furious and angry. Vivian, who had warned Blut not to mess around, just smiled slightly as Blut ignored her warning. Back to Duncan, who went to a bar to meet a retired senior hitman named Porter. Porter explained that since Damocles fell into Blut's hands, all retiring hitmen were destined to be killed by him because Blut didn't want to pay the pensions. Duncan asked if Porter knew where they were holding the hostage, since his friend Camille had been kidnapped by them. Porter said they might be holding her at Blut's house. It turned out Porter was conspiring with Blut to trap Duncan. The handkerchief he used was laced with a sedative. Porter was probably tempted by money from Blut, considering he had been retired for a long time and loved to drink. In short, Duncan was now in Blut's hands, chained and tortured slowly until his retirement was up in 4 days. During this time, Blut planned to avenge his girlfriend Hilda's death. Blut also showed a photo of Camille being forced to take drugs, making her addicted and insane. Blut began torturing Duncan by stabbing his chest and using pliers to peel his skin. On the second day, Blut cut Duncan's entire body. On the third day, Blut pulled out bones and stabbed Duncan's body until the knife broke and remained inside. Not satisfied with his torture, Blut stabbed Duncan's left eye. However, Duncan managed to endure the pain, remembering Camille's face. After finishing, Blut left Duncan alone to be executed on the fourth day. Duncan, still conscious, took the broken knife from his body to unlock the chain. The next day, exactly on the fourth day, Blut and his guards confidently came to finish Duncan. But when two of his guards approached Duncan, suddenly Duncan quickly killed them. Blut, realizing Duncan was after him, fled in fear. Duncan kept killing Blut's henchmen. Duncan then went to his old friend Jasmine. Duncan borrowed her phone to call Vivian and arranged a deal to exchange himself for the woman they had captured. Jasmine took care of Duncan and treated his wounds all over his body. Duncan didn't need a long time to heal because his body was probably already accustomed to pain and injuries. However, Duncan had to let go of his left eye, which could no longer be used due to Blute's stab. On the other side, Vivian and Blute were terrified because Duncan was still alive and would hunt them down. Vivian, who was already involved, asked all of Blute's men to attack Duncan during the meeting. Back to Duncan, who had recovered and planned to take revenge and rescue Camille from Blute with Jasmine's help. It became clear that Jasmine was no ordinary woman, possibly an assassin herself, as evidenced by the heavy weapons she owned. Jasmine offered Duncan an advanced weapon in the form of a glove connected to a machine gun. By just moving his fingers, he could kill many people. After everything was ready with sophisticated weapons, Duncan was set to face many of Blute's men, along with Vivian. On the way, Duncan called Vivian while being tracked. This was deliberately done by Duncan to lure them in. Duncan had prepared weapons at his place to welcome Vivian and her entourage. Vivian came only to kill Duncan because she was paid handsomely by Blute, but instead, Duncan shot them all with advanced weapons provided by Jasmine. Blute, watching through a camera, couldn't believe what he saw. Duncan then immediately went to Blute's house to finish him off. Duncan killed Blute with an axe in a brutal manner. Finally, Duncan found Camille and took her home, caring for her until she regained consciousness. After a few days, Duncan went to check on Camille and entered her room. He found torn newspaper with articles about the massacre of a family where only one girl survived. From behind, Camille pointed a gun at him. In the end, Duncan realized that Camille was the girl who survived the massacre he had carried out. However, Camille didn't shoot him because she knew Duncan was just a pawn. Camille now intended to find the person who ordered Duncan to kill her family. And the film ends. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe. Because by subscribing, you have supported me to make better videos. See you in the next video.